Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Adventrian. Now, for tonight's show, I was hoping that I could tell you all a little story. You all okay with that? Great. Our story begins back in the spring of 1948, where a strange radio signal was being broadcasted around the Strait of Malacca. Several ships in the area detected the signal and began to respond to this mysterious SOS. The transmission was broken up into two distinct parts, separated by Morse code that could not be deciphered. But for everyone who heard the signal, the message was clear.
All officers, including the captain, are dead. Lying in the chart room and the bridge, possibly the whole crew, dead.
Given the urgency of this message, all nearby ships and stations helped to triangulate the position of this broadcast and sent help as soon as possible. The first ship to respond to this dire call for help was the American vessel, the Silver Star. A few hours passed until the Silver Star managed to locate the doomed vessel, now identified as the Dutch freighter, the SS Ourang Medan. The Silver Star pulled close to the Dutch ship as its own crew prepared to board. Already, they could tell that something was wrong. There were no signs of life on the deck of the freighter. There were no sounds. No movement. Only silence. The true horror came when the rescue party made its way onto the ship, where they found it littered with corpses. There they were, and I quote,
"Sprawled on their backs, the frozen faces upturned toward the sun, with mouths gaping open and eyes staring. The dead bodies resembled horrible caricatures, with no survivors and no visible signs of injuries on the dead bodies."
Even the ship's dog met this exact same fate. People who saw this grotesque display claimed that all the men had died from fear. But what fear? What were they all so afraid of? Then, a fire broke out in Cargo Container 4, which forced the rescue team to evacuate. They boarded their own ship and prepared for the worst. The SS Ourang Medan then exploded and sunk deep into its watery grave. Pretty spooky, right? This event is so strange and mysterious, and I would love to get to the bottom of this, so let's explore a couple theories that might explain what caused this terrible tragedy. The first theory is that the crew died of carbon monoxide poisoning. Somewhere on the ship there was a leak of this toxic gas, which eventually suffocated everyone on board, and it was the fuel that caused the ship to explode. Honestly, I think this theory is pretty sound, but it does have some flaws. Carbon monoxide is incredibly dangerous and extremely hard to detect. Crew members down the hull would have had no way to know if there was a leak or how to stop it. They simply would have all died one by one. But the same could not be true of the members on deck. The carbon monoxide produced from the boat simply could not be enough to smother the open air on the deck, and the members on the upper levels of the boat should have also been safe as long as there was adequate airflow. Now, I could see a few members dying from the poison, but all of them? I find it hard to believe, but it could explain how the boat exploded, considering how flammable the gas can be. So overall, I give this theory half a cookie. Well, if carbon monoxide doesn't make much sense, then what does? I can hear you asking. So let's discuss the second theory around this terrible shipwreck. But in order for this theory to make sense, we are going to need a little bit more background information about the SS Ourang Medan. The word Orang is Malay for man or person, and the word Medan is the largest city on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, giving us the name Ourang Medan. Which is a strange name for a ship if you ask me, but there's more. There was no ship called the Ourang Medan that sailed right after World War II. There's no record of the ship ever being constructed or commissioned, and there was no documents or travelogues ever to be found. So what does this all mean? Well, what if the ship was carrying something illegal? What if the ship was smuggling something dangerous and didn't want to be found? Many people believe that the SS Ourang Medan was smuggling Japanese nerve gas or other Axis superpower weapons out of Japan and into the hands of the Americans. Now, the US could not use their own ships to transport such sensitive materials, as it would have left a paper trail for investigators to follow. So the government hired this undocumented ship, and presumably many others, to help transport these extremely dangerous materials and technologies out of Japan. That would explain the mysterious deaths of the crew members. What if some of this super advanced nerve gas had somehow leaked out of one of the containers and killed every last one of the crew members? And if the US government was involved, then of course they would want to cover this up, which is why there is so much conflicting evidence out there. Wait, what? So yeah, this story is kind of a mess. No one really knows when or what happened. You will hear that it happened every year from 1939 to 1962, and a lot of evidence that is presented is unverifiable. None of the ships seem to be real, and the Lloyd's shipping register has no record of the Medan ever existing.
In case you didn't know, the Lloyd shipping record is a complete list of merchant ships and the classifications that they hold. I didn't know that until I Wikipedia'd it, so don't feel bad.
It seems the original story came from a German survivor of the shipwreck, who told it to some Dutch missionaries, and then they told the story to the first author of this article, Silvio Scherli. Even the Dutch newspaper who originally wrote this story wrote this disclaimer at the end. This is the last part of our story about the mystery of the Ourang Medan. We must repeat that we don't have any other data on this mystery of the sea, nor can we answer the many unanswered questions in the story. It may seem obvious that this is a thrilling romance of the sea. On the other hand, author Silvio Scherli assures us of the authenticity of the story. And this was written in 1959. Now, a similar story has been found in the 1940 publishment of the Associated Press in British newspapers, the Daily Mirror and the Yorkshire Evening Post, but the stories differ wildly, and the location of this incident happened in the Solomon Islands, not Indonesia. Now, the ship Silver Star does in fact exist, but it sailed under a different name during this time period, and no records regarding a rescue mission in the East Indies. All of this information leads me to believe that the story of the SS Ourang Medan is nothing more than a myth. The inconsistencies within the narrative and the complete lack of evidence for this event, it's just too much to ignore. Seafarers are infamous for the many tales and superstitions, such as mermaids, the Flying Dutchman, and the Mary Celeste. And I believe that the SS Ourang Medan is just one of these legends. What about
aliens?
No, stop it. Hey, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our little story tonight. If you like what you saw and you would love to help support the channel, please consider leaving a like and subscribing down below, and feel free to leave a comment in the comment box. Anyways, I hope that you all have a good night and a safe trip home. And until next time, au revoir.